Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the most recent episode of Unpolished MBA. And today I have with me Mr. Marcus Chan. Hi, Marcus.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks so much for having me on.
I'm so glad to have you today. I'm going to start by asking you the same two questions that I ask everyone. And the first one is, are you an entrepreneur or a corporate employee?
Awesome. So I was a corporate employee for about 14 years, but I've been an entrepreneur, a full-time entrepreneur for about 2.5 years now.
Oh, fantastic. MBA or no MBA?
So I did get my MBA as well when I was in corporate America, actually.
Did they pay for it? Just
No,
curious.
they did not.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was funded out of the Chan Retirement Foundation. So,
Nice. They don't pay for them too much anymore these days.
no.
But it's interesting to know because you've had a long corporate career and now what made you become an entrepreneur?
So it was never really a dream of mine or something I want to do. In fact, even when I got my MBA, it wasn't like I'm going to get my MBA and then start my own business. Like it just was not really how I expected life to be. It's just one of those things where I grew up. My parents were entrepreneurs, really poor. They started a restaurant. They opened a restaurant. They had like rental property. They did all these things. Eventually, were able to build a good life for themselves. But I saw how hard they work, so I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm like, I don't want that. I'm gonna go to corporate America, good steady job, good income, good benefits, more stability, etc. So when I graduated, I went into corporate America as a B2B sales professional, and I actually really struggled. And then eventually, over time, I figured out, started having success, got promoted a bunch of times, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be a corporate employee. I love it. Like at this point, I did it for years, or at least for
Wow.
about 6, 7 years. It's about seven or so years. And at that point is when probably the little seed of an idea to be like an entrepreneur kind of started popping in my head. Because at this point, I had been promoted a number of different times, like 10 times at this point. And I was running a sales organization, about 85 plus employees, and we did a lot of revenue. I had a lot of influence and power, and it was really, really cool. And I was
Yeah.
one of the youngest directors in the company, and this is for a Fortune 500 company. I'm like, oh wow, this is a great life. And
Mhm.
people kept asking me and say, hey Marcus, you should write a book about this. I'm like, write a book? Oh my god, I write a book for? I'm like, well, maybe I could write an ebook, something easy. So I started researching online,
Mhm.
learn how to write an ebook. This is before everyone had an ebook. This is like 2015. So I wrote an ebook and I learned how to sell it online, which is all new to me. And I
Mhm.
remember like just kind of like launching it, if you will, like launching it, and I made like $9.99 first, like
That's
first day.
exciting.
But
Yeah.
I still have the email from PayPal. I was so excited. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, because at this point, I was so used to either in my parents' restaurant, people physically exchanging me money for food, or in B2B sales, people exchanging credit cards, POs, etc., like face to face in a sales call. So having a stranger give me not even $10 online was like, that's really interesting. So at this point, I started actually studying internet marketing, online businesses, etc. And it still wasn't like I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Um, but I also thought to myself, I'm like, it would be kind of cool to build extra side income. And what made a lot of sense from when you create your first digital product, the natural progression was like, can I build something bigger and charge more? And that was a digital course. And that now everyone, their mother has a digital course, but back then it wasn't as
Yeah.
popular.
Mhm.
So I bought a program, learned how to start doing that, and actually took me a couple of years because at this time I was still traveling nonstop for my corporate job. I was,
Yeah.
easily in a hotel room 100 plus nights a year, 80 plus hours a week, in planes, hotels, etc. I was traveling all the time. In my free time, I decided to start building this course out. So I started building this course out, and the first thing that kind of instinctually came to me was, well, what do people ask me questions about? B2B sales. So I'm like, let me build something that could have helped me when I started. So it took me 2 years. I built it out, record my free time, record in hotel rooms, did all the work. And after about 2 years, this is January 2019. And I kind of thought to myself, I had like kind of aha, or not aha, more like a like fear. I was like, what if I just wasted 2 years building this and nobody buys it? I'm like, what if
Right. Which
this is just like,
happens a
what,
lot.
right? I'm
Uh-huh.
like, what if I just wasted 2 years? So I just like, screw it. Let's just do it. So I just did a mini launch, woke up and made $2,000 overnight. And that was like, because this whole time I'm still selling this ebook, right? Like
Well, were you
maybe
promoting yourself or anything in that
no.
time period?
So the company I was at was very conservative. They really didn't like
Right.
um like branding on LinkedIn, branding online. So I had a whole different profile on Instagram. I just like, it was posting motivational quotes and different things like that. Built a very small email list, maybe 300 people, just it took like years to get to that point. And so when I launched it, I was surprised at many sales. I'm like, oh, wow, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was like an aha. And at this point, I've been in corporate America for, over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what's next? And, I had a great reputation, great everything. I'm like, I can keep climbing the corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something about being able to make an impact beyond just my corporation.
Right.
So yeah, because I had a big sales organization. Yes, I had a lot of people that would indirectly reach out to me because I was in the company and they were like, at the same company with me. And they're like, wow, you're doing a great job. I'll learn from you. I'm like, I know I can help people outside of here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, still, I hadn't really, I was like, I was making amazing income with my corporate job. I'm like, I can't just leave that for even just a one-time buy of $2,000. I'm like,
it's something that may not even work.
May not even work out. Right. So, what kind of, as the next couple of kind of, months are progressing, I started selling more and more of these courses, which is really cool, but I also started getting feedback. Like people were getting results, like strangers.
Yep.
They're like, thanking me. I'm like, this actually works. Like, and this is like a validation for me that my first product, my second product I created actually was able to deliver a transformation that I promised it would do. Right. I knew I could do it if I was face to face with them. Could I do it virtually, digitally, and with something I could scale? Mm-hmm. Now I was validating them. That was really cool. So I started like, as a result of people start asking my coaching and other things, I'm like, this is kind of neat. Sometimes it's the side income, which is really, really neat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, this is an opportunity for me to make a decision here. I can keep doing what I'm doing here, mm-hmm. or I can go all in on this. And you get to the point where, it's never about the money anymore, but it's really about what am I here for? What's the impact? What can I really do and change? And for me, I'm like, I know if I just work directly with these other sales professionals around the world, I can literally change their life. It changed my life. Let me do whatever I want. So I'm like, let me just kind of time this out. So I didn't want to just turn in my 2 weeks and roll out because I had a bunch of stock I was going to invest. Yeah. I had, I had won another President's Club trip, which is a top elite award. So it's an amazing trip. It's a 5-star resort. I won my free trip. Mm-hmm. That was during the summertime. I also want to be strategic with timing out earnings calls so the stock would go up so I can cash out. Yeah. So I timed out for like roughly September timeframe after the next earnings call. I was like, I'll roll after that. So I literally just kept doing my day job, was building a side business, doing all these things, literally with a lone Instagram account and, building my email list slowly that way. And I officially quit my job September 19, 2019. I was 18, September 19, 2019, my first official day as an entrepreneur. And I went all in. That was it. I was all in from there.
And that was just before the pandemic though.
Right before the pandemic, which obviously is great timing, as you can tell. So, yeah. But it was really exciting though. So I remember so once I launched into, I'm like, this is like really hard, but it's really hard, but, fast forward, 2.5 years later, I'm grateful for all the lessons, the bruises, the pains, the scrapes, all on the journey, which has been absolutely incredible. So that's how I got into it. And that's how I've stayed an entrepreneur.
Well, I just got to tell you that you do have an advantage from having a sales background.
It does help. It does help.
And having two entrepreneurial parents. That's one trend that we've seen on this podcast. But it still doesn't guarantee success. There's definitely something special about you because as I mentioned, I heard about you before you mentioned anything about yourself.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So that's fantastic. So I want to know, I know what you do, but I want you to tell the audience what it is that you do as an entrepreneur now.
Awesome. So one of the first things really important to understand is once I started my business full time, I was 100% crystal clear exactly who I wanted to serve. Right. So I work directly with B2B sales professionals who are doing direct B2B selling. Right. In like user corporate environments, I help them, earn an additional $50,000 to $100,000 more in commissions and bonuses through mastering and refining the entire sales process.
So these are account executives.
Usually account executives. It kind of depends. I mean, so we have a lot of people in software sales in our programs. I mean, at this point now, we've brought in over 350 people into our programs. So it's all across the board, but some of them are what's called full cycle, meaning they have to do all the top of funnel work, cold call, outbound, cold email, outbound social selling, book the meetings, run it, close it, grow the account. To SDRs or sales development reps who only do top of the funnel marketing or top of funnel, appointment booking, to some who are only close, the only ones who only close deals. They run big accounts and they close those deals. So we do basically everything start to finish is what we do for the sales process.
So in your corporate career, were you a full cycle salesperson as well?
I was full cycle only. Yeah.
Wow. So that's why you know all parts of it so well.
Correct.
Because some people are good at, I know we need people that are more people that are good at full cycle, and we need to get there ASAP, but some people are just only good at being an SDR or only good at closing.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think I was blessed by my corporate career in the sense of, even the first role I had, it was a startup division of a major Fortune 500 company. So there's no training, there's no marketing. And historically, the part of the business that was huge and massive that they're known for, they screw through referral marketing. So this B2B side had no marketing, no nothing. It literally like we would knock on doors on foot and cold call, cold email. I mean, it was all like boots on the ground. Like there was no marketing, there was no leads. Like literally our phones didn't ring. We didn't get emails of leads. It was like, good luck.
So we had a typical startup environment though,
right. So we had to do everything, right, to generate the lead. So I was my own SDR. I was my own closer. I was also the guy who had managed accounts too. So I had to do it all. So I was able to have a full understanding and grasp of what it takes to take someone completely cold, to have them handing you cash in a short period of time. But on top of that, make sure they're happy and stay with you.
That's right. So everything from, being an SDR, getting people interested, all the top of the funnel stuff, to customer success.
Exactly right. Because we got paid off the back end. So I need to keep these accounts.
Right. So that's really interesting. First of all, anyone who can do that in startups is incredible, because you're given nothing. Most of the time, the founder is a tech person and they don't know, put up a few posts, call some people, figure this out. So the fact that you were able to do that and help build that organization successfully is incredible. Okay. But number two is, since they did not provide any training, which is normal for a startup because they don't know what training, whatever, where did you learn?
Yeah, great question.
How did you receive the knowledge you needed to succeed?
Sure. So first off, they did give me training in the form of a manual that was about 3 inches thick, written by people who had never done the job before. That was amazing. I'm like, great. Look at these scripts from 1981, right? So the first thing I did, I'm a college grad. I don't know crap about cold calling or anything.
That's what I was just about to ask you. Right? How old were you?
So I was 22 years old. Okay. And I remember, I went to my boss. This is like day one. Day one gives me a manual. I'm like, this is garbage. I could tell. This is like, I can't really see this working. But I don't know. I don't know. Right. So I'm like, boss, what should I do right now? What should I do today? He's like, I want you to go knock on doors. I'm like, okay. Like, what does that mean? Like, what's my objective? Like, how many do I go on? He's like, I want you to walk into 30 doors and try to close some deals. I'm like, okay, sure. Like just go out the door. He's like, yeah. Like, okay. So he literally, no joke, he gives me a stack of his business card, because I don't have even business cards at this time. Yeah. This is when business cards are still pretty popular, if you will. He gives me a stack of his business cards. And no joke, Monique, I literally just walked out the door, started walking down the street. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, there's basic math here I'm sure I can work out. So he said 30. Let me just double it then. Let me just double. I want to see if I can get 2 sales before the end of the day. So, and this is a B2B sales process. So I go and start walking down, and I walk in over 60 businesses on foot that first day. I do not close any deals. I do not book any appointments. I do not generate any interest whatsoever. And I'm like,
did you get thrown out of anywhere?
Not really thrown. People just like, this is also in the last recession. So the economy is not getting really good. Like, oh, we're about to shut down. We're going out of business. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I'm just going to, it is what it is. Like, on to the next one. So the next day, I'm like, I'm going to go again. I do the same thing again. New businesses. So over 60 again, same result. Nothing. No book meetings, no closed deals, no interest. At this point, I walked in over 120 businesses. I'm like, this is insane. How do I have less than a 1% conversion rate? Simple math. Not even one person to have some sort of interest. I'm like, this can't be right. I go to my boss and say, hey man, what should I do? He's like, Call them, dummy. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. All right. So I grab the cards and I just start calling every single one. All right. Call every single one. Because I didn't realize I was talking to gatekeepers, right? Like, so I start calling every single one.
Right.
I call all of them that first day or the third day now. No meetings. I'm like, let me try again the next day. Because Austin loved it. Didn't answer, voicemail, etc. Call again the next day. Same response. So at this point now, and I think I started on Tuesday, right? So I'm like, it was like Friday, and I am just destroyed mentally. I'm like, this is, I have literally a sub 1%. Like, obviously, there's something wrong with
me. Right.
There's something wrong with me. Like, there's something wrong. Like, I clearly am not made to be in sales. My parents are right. I should have become an accountant, an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, something way more prestigious than a guy trying to sell rental box trucks, for leasing, right. By foot. So I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. And I remember I remember that Friday night, I was talking to my girlfriend, now wife, and I was complaining up a storm. I'm like, it's because, I have a bad territory, I have a bad boss, I'm not getting trained, I have a stupid manual with my people, I'm not getting any help, the economy's bad, it's a recession, everything sucks. I was just blaming the world.
Yeah.
And she's like, so what are you going to do about that? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, you've always been relatively studious. Maybe get some sales books. I'm like, oh, I guess that makes sense. So that's when I started. I went to the library. I got like 10 sales books, Zig Ziglar, Og Mandino, Brian Tracy, right. etc. Right. And I started reading any sales book I could read. Right. Yep. Now, challenge is a lot of them written in the 80s and 70s.
Yes, true.
So I'm taking these techniques from Steve Schiffman, cold call techniques that really work. And I'm like, let me just try all these things. And I try all these things, like literally for weeks. Okay. Mm-hmm. And fast forward, this is like 6-7 weeks in of literally, no joke, every single day. It's pure. I have the highest activity out of everyone. I make the most calls. I do the most cold calls by foot. I send the most cold emails. I outwork everyone for the next like 6 weeks. Goodness. Still do not close a single deal. I had a couple meetings here and there, but nothing really progressed. While everyone else is like closing some deals. So the only thing I can really judge is myself. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, right? So I'm like, God, I am not made out for this. And one of the things around this time frame is one of the books I come across. It just happened to be close to the sales area at the library. Was a Tony Robbins book called "Awaken the Giant Within." All right, "Awaken the Giant Within," and I read when I was reading the book. One of the things that I really uncovered, and one of the things he said was, if you don't like the answer, ask a better question. If you don't like the answer, ask a better question. And at that point, I realized anytime I was getting hit with setbacks and issues and problems or rejection, I was actually asking myself a lot of negative questions. Like, why is it so hard? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with this person? Why are they a jerk? Why they hang up on me? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? What's my boss bad? These are very disempowering questions.
That's true. Yeah.
And I remember, at this point, I started thinking I'm like, okay, if I don't have the answer, it's like, what can I do better? Mm-hmm. What else could I do? Who would know? Who's having success? And we started asking questions like this. I'm like, okay, who's having success? Well, this girl in Seattle. Let me call her up and just see what she's doing. So I started picking up little things here and there, and I start realizing, really, the truth is, if I want to be really good at anything, it's about behavior modeling.
That's right.
Behavior modeling. And that wasn't a concept. It seems so obvious. At the time, I just didn't realize. There wasn't LinkedIn. There weren't sales influencers. There weren't people to follow. YouTube wasn't really a thing back then for like sales. Like, there was no real resources. Mm-hmm. So I started just kind of figuring out here and there and started trial and error. And I started like basically grasping fundamentals from around the world, around what I observed, and testing and tweaking. And the thing is what I've really learned through time is helping for my business as well. I became a master A/B tester. I would test everything, how I'd said things, the wording, the tonality, whatever. Like, bad result, good result, bad result, good result. What's the win? What's the loss? What's the win? What's the learn? Right? And I'll test over and over until I started creating things that would work. Now, this really helped me because I'm at this point. One of the ahas I had was, I remember at this point, I remember it was like Friday night, about 6-7 weeks in. My boss pulled me in 4 p.m. on a Friday night, which you can know is never a good conversation.
Yeah, that was scary, right?
Yeah, he basically said, "Hey, you suck at your job." He said, "Nice, you suck at your job, but you gotta figure this out. Otherwise, I'm putting you on a performance plan, and you're out." And I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to get fired in the
Mhm.
recession. I can't get a job right now.
Was that a commission only job, by the way?
No, no. So the base salary was 29,500.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty stressful, right? And I remember, like, the next week early on, I remember this is really key for me. This is like a big mental shift for me. I remember, like, it was probably Monday or Tuesday. I went to go see the doctor, and my doctor, this is a normal checkup. And I remember, like, by the end of it, like, she's basically like, hey, so you're basically like, your blood pressure is really high. Okay.
Yeah.
You got like pre-hypertension, you gained a little weight since I last talked to you, etc. You were like, I wasn't like fat or but you gained a little weight. It's gotta be aware of that. Like, here's what I recommend. And I'm like, basically, more cardiovascular, eat better, watch what I eat, etc. I'm like, oh, I'm like, great, sounds great. And I remember, like, that night, I'm like, what a great plan. I'm so happy she told me these things. And then I'm like, wait a minute, how did she sell me on this?
Right.
How did she sell me on completely changing my habits? Because I'm literally trying to sell people to change their habits and buy from me. So what did she do specifically? And when I really thought about that, I realized she didn't like have some crazy pitch or spiel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She just asked a lot of really great questions. Like, she took a step back, got my measurements, asked me a lot of great questions, covered what my current state is, my desired state, and then she showed me a solution to get to my desired state. That's all she did. And I'm like, that's what she do in sales. And I started modeling my sales process towards something like that. And that really started improving my results as well. I mean, literally by month 3, I went from being one of the worst reps to the number 1 rep month 3.
Wow.
And I stayed number 1 for 3 more months until they gave me a fake promotion to go run a team and teach them everything I learned. Promotion. Yeah, they were like, hey, so you've been doing a great job. We're going to take you over here, put you in this other operation. They're the worst now. We want you to teach them what you did. You're responsible for everyone's growth and results. You're not going to pay you anymore. We're not going to give you a title boost. But if you do a good job, you might get a promotion. That's said,
typical corporate America.
I'm like, great, let me do it. And I did it. So that was a lot of fun. But that's how I started learning. And A/B testing, a lot of A/B testing, figuring out, I wish I could say this or that, but I also had good mentors too, right? I would ask them questions. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they weren't necessarily sales mentors, but they helped me reframe how to think. And a lot of times we just don't know how to think critically, and that actually hinders us most of the time.
Oh, that's so true. So using these techniques and really a lot of common sense to move things forward, how do you help other people sell more in your business? Yeah.
Great question. So it's really, really quite simple. A lot of times, most sales professionals, generally speaking, they just don't know, they don't know, and they lack clarity on what's not working well.
Okay.
So for example, like I'll give you one really, really clear example. So even like running discovery calls where you're asking questions, most salespeople, if they've been in sales for a while, at least for even a couple of years, like, oh yeah, you ask a good question, you can close more deals. Yeah, obvious. It's very common, but most people don't know how to actually effectively do it.
Right. What questions, right?
Yeah. What questions? Mm-hmm. How do you ask the questions? Mm-hmm. And it's not about, and the mistake a lot of them make is that they say, well, I want to have like a list of questions. I'm going to go boom, 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 boom. And it's going to be great. I ask these questions and then they give me money at the end. That's just not how it works. Right. What a lot of them don't realize is a sales process is merely a skeleton. It's a framework. Mm-hmm. Just like a script is, but how you dive in deep is really, really key. It's being able to take the surface level question that might open the situation and go even deeper. So for example, one of my favorite questions to ask is a surface level questions. Like, hey, what happens if you go a year and nothing changes? You still run the same issues.
Right.
Now that person's going to say, oh, that'll be terrible. It's bad for my business. And the average rep says, got it. And they stop and they move on. But it's really understand, how do you go even deeper? So, wow, that sounds absolutely terrible that, you'd be losing, $200,000 a year in revenue for your business. How would that impact you to lose $200,000 a year? Really bad. What type of impact would that have? Tell me more about that. And you start chunking down. And the truth is, discovery is not made on the surface level questions. Discovery is made in the root. So I teach them how to tighten those pieces down, right? And then it's actually across the whole sales process. So it's taking a lot of the whole sales process and improving everything down. So for example, if they have a 20% open rate, get them into a 25, 30, 40% open rate for the emails. If they talk to 10 decision makers on the phone and they only book 2, so they have a 20% conversion to booking, it's getting them to 90% plus.
I see. So when you're talking about getting more emails open, do you help with copy, email subject lines?
100%. So
Okay.
sometimes like
And scripts.
it's all the way through. So it's not just like the mistakes some reps make, like, oh, I want just like the magic email. I want the magic script, the magic framework.
Yeah.
They help a little bit as a frame,
Mm-hmm.
but you need more context around it. So like, for example, like yesterday, with my client calls, from my whole audience, I pulled up the email that she had me review, and I completely rewrote it. But I explained what I was doing and why, so they can understand, hey, this is the difference when you say hi versus hey. This is when you take this copy here and you change it like this, right? So we took an email that when we run it through a thing like called HemingwayApp.com, takes a 10th grader to understand it. We wrote to a 4th grader to understand it. All right. We took it from a two, if it's right on the iPhone or phone, from a 2 email scroll or 2 thumb scroll to no scroll.
That's right.
So like, it's these little things. We took it from a double CT call to action to a single CTA. That's even simpler. So in breaking down not just what we're doing and how we're doing, but also why are we doing it? So this way they can replicate that success, not just with me, but they can actually think on their own critically. So when they look at the email, like, how can I adjust this to increase this conversion? How can I adjust this to get a better response rate? How can I adjust this to get a better booking ratio? Right. So a lot of times I find sales, just like anything else, it's a death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's very rarely one big thing that changes everything. It's usually microscopic little cuts that we're doing to ourselves that actually decrease our overall win rate. So we understand that, and we understand that the devil's in the details. Let's find those details. Let's fix the details permanently. So that way our closing ratio goes up drastically.
Right. Now, when people are in the mode of feeling defeated from not closing like they want to, and then they come to you, how do you pick them up?
Yeah, great question. So motivation is fleeting.
That's right.
And it's and one of the things that, if I'm on a call with someone that, or, my team's on a call with someone that wants to join our programs, like, how do you market and motivate and jazz me up? Well, if you're looking for that, looking for something, you're looking for the wrong solution. Having a little bit of motivation is like saying, I'm gonna drink more coffee to have more energy. The true root issue is you're not getting enough sleep.
I love that metaphor. You're right.
So it's really understanding, what are we solving here? So a big part of it, so they come in the program. So it's not like, so we have people that come from, hey, I'm struggling, to I'm freaking crushing, I want Marcus's help. So there's a wide spectrum, but we have some people that they come in, let's say they're absolutely struggling, so they're mentally feeling defeated. Right. The truth is when they understand, how do we build the right habits and routines to build success, how to think properly, but also how to start gaining progress. Right. Because ultimately progress is the ultimate motivation.
That's true. That's right. Seeing results.
100%. So I'll give you a really good example. So Liam just joined my program about 10 business days ago. And when he joined, new in the role, 6 weeks in, very stressed, hadn't closed a single deal. It's a very transactional sales process for what he sells. He's very stressed out. No direction. He feels like he's all over the place. Right.
Yeah.
So he comes in, and one of the assets we provide for them is also a course in just one part, where it's very lean and mean. It's not that they watch, they get results, they just take action. So he starts going through that before even the call I had with him as an onboarding call. So I started calling him Wednesday. So at that time he was, or a Tuesday. So that was like 7 business days ago, or something, like 8 business days ago, or 8 business days into the program. And again, on the call with him, I'm like, how are you doing? He's like, dude, I'm super pumped. I'm like, why are you so pumped? He's like, I already want these modules right here. And I already took action. Like, I started taking action this week, 15 calls. I booked 3 meetings. I've already closed 1. I'm like, amazing. Impressive. So now he's so freaking excited because he has progress. Now, sometimes it's not always a closed deal, but sometimes it's like, hey, wow, like, they're actually responding to my emails now.
That's right.
Oh, wow. I'm actually booking meetings now. Oh, wow. I'm actually like making these tiny tweaks, but it's not just like, they also know why. That's right. Now what happens is, because they're adding in, they're getting a little bit better each day from how they think and what they do in their skill set and their growth and development. They become naturally more motivated as a result. But one of the things I really break down is it's one of those things where it's got to keep going.
That's right.
Right. So it's having the right routine. So actually, one of the first things that we actually usually reprogram in their brain is how to think and how to run routine. How you think and your routine needs to be massively aligned before you change the process. Because ultimately, like Jim Rohn said, if you work hard at your job, you make a living. When you work hard on yourself, you make a fortune. So the truth is, my program, even though I'm focused on helping BB sales reps, really crush and make more money, it's actually really a personal development program that disguises a sales program.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when they come out the other end, they're like, oh my God, I don't even recognize myself anymore. Like they're getting better jobs. They're happy in their own lives. They're just like, they're less stressed. They're making more money and they're working less. Like even the people on my team, like my team, we've scaled up now. We have 6 people on our team, and like 2 of them are former students of the program. Like they're so fired, they quit their jobs, come work. Because like they realize like, oh man, like this is beyond just sales coaching. This is like it's almost like life coaching, if you will, right? But because we niche down, it really helps them across the board, right? So that's why I love what I do, because ultimately I know if they just do what I tell them to do, they're going to have amazing results. If they don't do what I do, if they don't do it, then they're not going to get any results at all.
That's right. You know what? And it's funny that you said that, because I was going to ask you that question. So please share with our audience as we wrap up here, please share with our audience the name of your, academy that you're talking about.
Awesome. Right now. Yeah. So my program, it's a 6-figure sales academy, and it's my inner circle program I'm talking about. So it's a high performance coaching program that we just transform everything from A to Z, the whole sales process. So pretty cool. I mean, I feel really blessed. I mean, this program's running for about 2.5 years now. And because of the success of it, this is how we've been recognized in Forbes, Yahoo Finance, Salesforce, LinkedIn, et cetera, Entrepreneur Magazine, because, well, we actually practice what we preach. That's what happens.
You're doing the work yourself.
Exactly right.
With the program, is it year round? Is it month to month? It's a 6-figure sales academy. Is it 6 figures to pay for it?
Yeah, I should charge more, right? So it definitely is. I'll tell you what, it definitely is an investment. Definitely is an investment, right? So definitely, when I compare it to the competition and people that are in the sales coaching space, we are definitely at the high end of premium brand. This is actually why I share so many case studies and testimonials of people who make the money back in the first month or 2 months or 3 months, because I know if they just do it and they take a comp plan, they'll make it back, right? They'll make it back. So it's so the program, the length, so it has multiple components to it. So we have parts that end within the first 9 months, and we have our first 12 weeks, and then we have parts that end, within the year as well. So there's multiple levels to that same program, because it's designed to help get them results as fast as possible. They're also sustainable as well.
Right, because you're teaching them to change behaviors. So once 100% that habit, then but I'm sure they still check in with you. That's
exactly it. So usually what ends up happening is like they'll send me because a lot of them are. I mean, they all a lot of them, they follow me Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. They're on my email newsletter, and they'll email, hey, so I want to give you a quick update. Like I'll give you examples. So Sam, he actually joined back in January 2020. So he's in Malaysia. His first year, he went from earning $40K a year to $121,000 a year, right? So really, really cool.
Yeah.
His second year, so 2021. So he's been for over 2 years now. In 2021, he went from he finished 2020 at $121K. He finished 2021 at $273,000 a year.
Wow.
So from $40K to $273,000 a year. And living in Malaysia, his life has absolutely changed. So he's not an active member anymore, but he'll update me because he sees in my stories, he's in Malaysia. He'll hey, just a quick update. Even last year, hey, just so you know, it's 6 months in, I'm already at $180K. I'm like, that's a great job, man.
Awesome.
So it's pretty cool. It's cool it's cool to see what their lives become. To me, it's like the money is a simple, easy, tangible number to tie it to.
Right.
But what they do with it is really more important to me. So, for example, even with someone like, say, Tanya, she's in our program. She actually, when I spoke with her probably about a year ago, she actually went with a different sales coach. She said, Marcus, I don't know if I vibe with you. I'm like, I apologize. Totally cool. She went with somebody else, cheaper. She thought it'd be a better fit for them. No problem. She went with them. Totally cool. A few months later, she was like, hey, It just wasn't what I was looking for. I think I made a mistake. Would you take me into the program? I'm like, sure, we'll get you in the program. Within a few months, she's number one in her company, right? Keeping that momentum. She's now been in the program for about 6 months. She sent me a message last month because of her success, in the company and the money she's making. She just bought a new house, better neighborhood for her kids, or two young kids, better neighborhood, better schools, better. So now she's changing generations for the future. Right. So, I make a joke to my team. I'm like, we're not in the sales coaching business. We're in the life-changing business. So if we show up and we deliver, their lives will change. Money that they earn is merely a vehicle to get to their dreams.
Wow, that's great. And yes, you are changing lives with the work that you do, which makes it much more fulfilling because you can see the impact that you're having.
100%.
One thing I will say, although your parents, may have wanted you to be an engineer or a doctor, you are a scientist. Yes. That is for sure.
I definitely A/B test a lot.
You're a problem solver. You're a scientist. Yeah. Problem solving is just like with anything else. You start with a hypothesis. You go through the cycle of asking questions, and so you are deemed a scientist in my eyes. I also want to point out that you mentioned Forbes and different publications that you have been in, but I want to tell you what's extremely powerful, which I have to give accolades to you for that, is that your name is passed around dark social or just, intimate conversations of people that you've helped. And that's even more powerful, I would say, than entrepreneur.com, Forbes, whatever. And so I found that you are a trusted person that actually delivers results. And that's why I reached out to you to be on here. So that's fantastic.
I appreciate that.
And I want more people to know about you authentically. And this is a great way to do it.
No, I appreciate that. And I'll add real quick too, is it's one of those things where, I think for me personally, when I realized like my why, that's when it really kind of changed things for me, right? When I realized like, if I was to say pass away tomorrow, and I'll be known for like 3 things. I'll be known for the legacy I built, the influence on people's lives that change, and everything I do with love and care, right? And ultimately, when I believe into like deep into my heart and my soul that when my team is truly effectively selling and delivering our programs, we are serving the highest possible level.
That's right.
We're serving the highest possible level.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your story and your everything with us today. And for everyone that's interested in connecting with Marcus, how can they reach you?
Awesome. Couple different super easy ways. Number one, head over to LinkedIn, look up Marcus Chan. Super easy. I'm using one of the top search results on there as well. And then number 2, head over to my website, which is sixfiguresalesacademy.com. That's spelled SIX for the 6, figuresalesacademy.com. And it'll redirect to my website, and you'll see there's free resources, there's free trainings, a bunch of free stuff. I just give out. I give like 90% of the stuff I put out there is 100% free.
That's fantastic. Marcus, thank you so much for joining us today on Unpolished MBA.